Hello everyone, welcome back to the shed. That was a rather short gap between videos, wasn't it? It's only been a day. Well, actually I'm recording this just after I've done the Met E class. But anyway, this is Hornby's Lord Nelson in Malachite. Let's get it out of the box. You may notice straight away that price sticker. Ooh! No, that's not what I paid for it. If I did, I think I'd have to be committed to an insane asylum. I am not paying £205 for a Hornby model. And to be perfectly honest, and don't hold me to it, this may very well be the last Hornby model I buy brand new. Because I waited for this thing, and I waited for this thing, and it was delayed, and then I think it was April or May, Rosa Sheffield said, it's due imminently. And now it's July and it's finally come out. This thing has been withheld and withheld and withheld. You can tell it's so withheld because it's in the now older style Hornby box. You really can't make it up, can you? Right, just before we get it out, detail pack. What do we got? We've got cylinder cocks, brake rigging, steps, an additional tension lock and NEM pockets, and that's about it in terms of detailing. Are those cylinder cocks? I'd like to think they are, or at least something similar. They're brass coloured, so I assumed. And now it's slid out of that. Anyway, here we are, finally. A Lord Nelson. I've never had a Lord Nelson before. It's very nice. It's very Malachite. I want to say the numbers and letters aren't sunshine. They're almost like a gold. From a certain angle they look sunshine, but from like straight on they just look like gold. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. Yellow lining on the boiler, which is most of them are okay except this one right here at the back of the, just before the firebox. That one's looking a bit messy at the top. The coal load is loose in the tender. Not sure if that's by design or not. Lamp irons on the rear look okay. Sprung buffer. Bullied style chimney, nice and big and fat. Bogey tender is very nice. Steps are done pretty well. Brake rigging's obviously not on there. Shade of green on the wheels looks slightly different to the bodywork. Probably because it's moulded plastic colour, not just paint. Cab detail is actually really good. All painted. Very fine. Yeah, that's pretty good. Wiring to the tender. So the socket's going to be in the tender. Have a look at the instructions. Let's get this plunked on the track. I should probably turn this around. There we go. Probably should have used a re-railer. Considering this is a bogey tender as well. There we go. Very nice, very big, very imposing, but it's not a Pacific. Right. The instructions. Running in and such. Accessories. So pipe, they are cylinder cocks, I was right. Steps at the front, tension lock, Lubrication points. Sound fitting. It is an 8-pin socket. I have seen people complain it is an 8-pin socket. You can buy 8-pin to 21-pin converters. Get with it, people. And lubrication points inside, and how to fit the brake rigging. So that's fairly straightforward. So let's put the ice cube packaging away. There we go. Plonk that there, and slide that in there. It's all very easy. It seems the sleeve as well on the packaging isn't as tight as it has been sometimes. And I think Hornby have only recently revised their packaging because of how the Hush Hush turned out. And everyone started calling it the Crush Crush because everyone's turned up broken, or most of them. I was rather fortunate. Just want to see if that coal load moves around, but it definitely sits in one specific position. Nameplate's well printed. Sir Martin Frobisher. Yeah, looks pretty good. There's some really nice yellow lining on the steps at the cab and on the tender as well. Again, I've just been waiting for a Malachite one, which is why finally, after all this time, I've got one. Right, so without further ado, because this is DC, dear God, it's DC for this price. I'll tell you about it later. Let's see, I want to switch to that. I want to unisolate. And we want to see this running around the layout. So, away we go. So she runs pretty well. There's definitely some motor noise, but it hasn't been running yet. Give you a verdict after it's done that. Handles express points perfectly fine. No stuttering or anything. We'll need to check the sort of slow speed running on DC. Does look really good. Brilliant. So I've now run the loco in. The motor noise has definitely quietened down. I'd say, knowing Hornby and Bachmann, they're not alone in this. This could definitely probably benefit. This could benefit from some lubrication at all points, because manufacturers at the moment are really stingy, or they just use some terrible lubricant for their models. Anyway, I've got a rake of 3 bullied coaches, also in Malachite and Sunshine, so should look quite fitting, although of course the Lord Nelsons were on quite big trains, like boat trains. I think this will look fine on the layout. So let's give it some power and get some footage of this thing going around the layout. So that's Hornby's Lord Nelson in Malachite livery. Let's talk about some pros and cons of this model, and then some issues. We'll talk about price. So pros and cons. Very nice model. Printing is pretty good for the most part, apart from one boiler band that looks a bit messy from close up. The actual tender lettering and the cabside number look to be not sunshine. They look to be closer to gold, even though you look on the box and they very much look like sunshine. It appears that that Hornby's Malachite is a different Malachite to Bachmann. I'd argue that this one looks better because it's brighter. The wheels have been moulded in a colour that is similar but not quite the same shade as the paint they've used. The cab there's a word there. The cab detailing is fantastic. Cons. This loco doesn't feel heavy enough for a 460. I'd recommend, from what I've heard, considering this is probably the same tooling as before, that the smoke box is just a hollow space. So if you happen to have some lead, maybe some like lead shot, or like little lead balls, or sheet lead, maybe put some in the loco just to help the tractive effort. Not too much, because of course this does use the same motor as the S15s have been using, Hornby's S15s, which have been burning out, so maybe on a heavier train. But this has been handling the 3 Bachmann bullies perfectly fine. Admittedly, these are really smooth rolling coaches. Let's talk about price, because this is the big downfall of the model. This is an older tooling. £205 is too much for this model. Regular retail price, too much. Or recommended retail price, too much. Quite honestly. And well, I've just noticed something else. I'll mention that in a moment though. Yes, I picked this up for £175 and £5 postage from AGR Models in Leighton Buzzard. It was the cheapest I could find it. The main reason I've wanted this model for so long is because of the livery. I have ridden behind the one and only remaining Lord Nelson, 850 Lord Nelson, at the Mid-Hants, and at the time it was wearing Malachite livery. This was back in 2015, 2016, mind you. This was a good little while ago. And it's been out of traffic since. But anyway, yeah, that's the reason I wanted a Malachite one. Am I satisfied with my purchase? I'd say I am, because I've waited long enough for it. If people are on the fence about getting this, I'm honestly going to have to say, maybe give it a pass. As much as it runs perfectly fine, the main turnaway is the price tag. If this thing gets down to about 140, I'd recommend buying it. This is Hornby slapping some paint on an old tooling and say, get stuffed, buy our old crap. Well, it's not necessarily crap, but compare it to, you know, newer toolings. we've seen things that are far better. You know, now Hornby's finally going back to doing 21 pin. You would have thought that they would revise this to have a 21 pin socket, but no, they've just gone with the 8 pin. Because of two factors that I can think of. One, this thing was already delayed long enough. This thing has been delayed like a year or so at least. And second, it would drive the price up even more, which would alienate even more of their consumer base, target consumers. So yeah, I'd say wait until this thing's on sale to get it. The price tag is just too rich. Unless you are so desperate for a Malachite Lord Nelson, I can't in good conscience recommend this to you. I'm going to mention something else I've just noticed. This buffer appears to be slightly pissed. It's not in line with the other one. That buffer is, this buffer is wonky. Not just the buffer itself, but the actual strut that's coming out. It looks like the buffer beam's a little bent, maybe, or it's warped slightly. That's disappointing. It's not, I didn't notice it looking at it from the front all this entire time, but looking at it side on, I can tell that buffer is slightly pissed. It's coming slightly towards me. That's disappointing. So overall, I'm quite satisfied with this model. I'm happy with the price I paid because it was the cheapest I could get it, brand new from a model shop. But I can't recommend to other people who are maybe on the fence about getting this model to go and buy it for even £175. I'd recommend waiting until it's on sale, even more, like down from the RRP. Look at 150, 140, and you're looking at probably the right figure for something like this. I think £200 for a non-sound fitted model is absurd when it's not like a limited edition or anything. This is just a general release item. I think that's ridiculous. And again, you know, not to tempt, you know, don't hold me to it, but I believe this is the last Hornby product I could be tempted into buying brand new first hand. Anything else in the future, I'm going to be looking at the second hand market. I'm just not interested in what Hornby's trying to put out now. I don't know if anyone else feels the same, but I'm genuinely, this may very well be the last brand new Hornby product I shell my money for. And it's only because of it's something that I've wanted for a good long while. We don't have a Lord Nelson, we don't have many Southern locos, and it's in Malachite, which is the era of Southern that we pretty much collect. So anyway, that's the conclusion, done and dusted. If you have any more questions about this model, please do leave a comment. That buffer is really annoying me. Yes, anyway, please do leave a comment if you have any questions. So, I don't think there's any more pre-orders due within the next month or so, I don't think. I think the Bullied Leader is delayed at the moment, so that won't be until late Q3, maybe Q4. So who knows when I'll do another video up the shed. So either way, until the next time we're in the shed, goodbye.